I used to lose clients to cheaper competitors, and I could never figure out why. Not because my work was worse, not because I was harder to work with. The results I delivered were solid. The relationships were good. And yet, every few months, someone would leave for someone who charged less, and I would sit there, wondering what I had missed. It took me an embarrassingly long time to understand what was actually happening. I was operating in a market where I was interchangeable, where a client could leave and find someone else who did roughly the same thing for less money, and the switch would cost them almost nothing. That is one of the most dangerous positions a service business can be in. Not because it means you are bad at what you do, but because it means the market has not yet given them a reason to stay. What changes that is what I want to talk about today. Not pricing strategy, not better proposals, not client retention tactics. Something that operates at a deeper level than all of those things. Something that makes the decision to leave not just unappealing, but genuinely irrational. In business, they call it a moat. I call it the reason clients stop shopping around. Let me start with what a moat actually is in the context of a service business, because it is not what most people think. A moat is not your reputation. Reputation helps, but it can be copied. It is not your pricing. Price is the first thing a competitor will undercut. It is not even your results. Results matter enormously, but in most markets, a client can find someone else who will promise the same results for less. A moat is the accumulated switching costs. It is everything a client would have to rebuild, relearn, re-explain, and retrust if they left you for someone else. The higher that cost, the stronger the moat. And the stronger the moat, the less your business depends on being the cheapest or the loudest or the most aggressive at selling. I want to break down the 4 things that actually build switching costs in a service business, because understanding this changed how I designed everything about the way I work. The first is proprietary process. When you have a way of doing things that is specific to you, a framework, a methodology, a sequence that clients learn and depend on, leaving you means leaving the process. They do not just lose a provider. They lose a system they have built their own operations around. That is a significant cost. Most service providers never build this because they are too focused on delivering results to document how they deliver them. The documentation is the moat. The second is embedded knowledge. Over time, you accumulate context about a client that nobody else has. Their history, their preferences, the mistakes they made before you arrived, the internal dynamics that affect how decisions get made. That knowledge lives with you. A new provider starts from zero. And starting from zero costs the client time, money, and the pain of re-explaining everything. The longer you work with someone and the deeper that knowledge goes, the more irrational it becomes to leave. The third is network integration. This one is subtle but powerful. When you become connected to other parts of a client's world, their team, their suppliers, their systems, their other advisors, you are no longer just a service provider. You are woven into how they operate. Removing you does not just create a gap. It creates disruption across multiple relationships and systems simultaneously. That level of integration is almost never worth the cost of switching, even if a competitor is significantly cheaper. The fourth is outcome dependency. This is when the results you deliver become so central to how a client measures their own success that the idea of operating without you feels genuinely risky. Not because you have made them dependent in an unhealthy way, but because what you do has become mission critical. They do not think of you as a vendor anymore. They think of you as infrastructure. Now here's the thing about all 4 of these. None of them happen by accident. They are designed. And most service providers never design them because they are too focused on acquiring the next client to think carefully about what makes the current ones impossible to lose. The shift I want you to make is this. Stop thinking about client retention as something you manage after the relationship starts. Start thinking about it as something you architect before it does. What is the process you are going to build that becomes so embedded in how your clients work that leaving means dismantling something they depend on? What is the knowledge you are going to accumulate and make visible through reports, through reviews, through documentation, so that the cost of losing it becomes obvious? How are you going to integrate yourself into the wider ecosystem around your client so that you are not just a provider, but a connection point? These are not relationship questions. They are structural questions, and the answers to them are what separates a service business that competes on price from one that never has to. I spent years competing on price because I had not built anything that made price irrelevant. The moment I started designing for switching costs instead of just delivering results, the nature of my client relationships changed completely. Conversations about price stopped happening. Renewals stopped being negotiations. Referrals started coming in pre-sold because my existing clients described me as irreplaceable, not just good. That is what a moat does. It does not just keep clients. It changes how they think about you entirely. If you have been following this series, you know that everything we have been building toward is about designing systems that work on your behalf. A moat is one of the most powerful systems of all. Because it works silently, it compounds over time, and it makes every other part of your business easier. If today is your first video, go back to episode 1. Everything connects. Subscribe. Because tomorrow we go deeper into how this all fits together. I will see you then.